understanding every property has a title, right? Most properties. So maybe that could be a good place to start, because if I have a property and you come and you tell me, but I own this, because if you tell me this is my car, I expect to see a logbook. So where do I get started, especially when I'm dealing with a person who is selling to me a real estate property? So where do I get started?
Okay, maybe I'll start, and then Diana can take up the second part. So when it comes to title and property and ownership, of course, a title is the critical document that you want to do due diligence on. I, as a lawyer, whenever I do a property transaction, I'm always looking, first of all, to get a copy of the title to see if I can do a search and additional due diligence. So in this section, I think we're going to discuss four. So one being a title search, another one being historical searches, another one being encumbrances, another one being issues to do with disputes on the property. So when it comes to the title search, it's important when you get a copy of the title that you apply for a search. In Kenya, you can apply for a search in several ways. So for example, in Nairobi right now, you have to do this through what's called the Adisasa system. So it's an online system whereby you just apply online, and you put in the property details and request for a search. The good thing with the, whether it's a good thing or it's a new thing with the Adisasa system, is that whenever you apply for a search, the owner of the property has to approve. Unlike before, you could just walk into the lands registry and fill in an application form and you get a copy of or a search result. Now the owner of the title has to be aware that you're actually applying for a search on their property. So I think it's a good thing, so that the owner of the piece of land knows what's happening at the lands office in respect to his information. So with Adisasa, again, you apply for a search and you can get an online search, and that's the kind of search you'll get. Outside of Nairobi, you actually have to go and do a physical application. And so you'll fill in a form at the relevant land registry and request for a title search on that particular title. The search itself will come out with certain information. One of the information, of course, they'll confirm who the owner of the property is as per their records. So it could say Ben Wigu is the owner of this property. Another thing that the search will also confirm is whether there are any, and Diana will mention this, any encumbrances that are maybe on the title. So anything that is affecting that title that maybe somebody else has registered against the title. And also things like the size of the title, whether the length of the term of the title. So sometimes you can get a freehold title. So a freehold title is where the term is, forever. It's yours forever. So Migui, if you have a freehold title, that's a fantastic title that you have.
Yeah.
Or it can have a specific term. So, it may be a term of, say, 70 years from a certain specific date, say from last year. So that is some of the information that you'll get from the title search. It's important that you look and see and understand that information, because that also then determines whether you're interested. So you could find a situation whereby a title only has, let's say, 20 years left, lease term. So that then informs you that maybe this is not the right investment because the term is too short, So it may not be a long-term investment for you. So that's pretty much the key reason why we do property searches. Allied to that is the historical search. And this is critical because a lot of the problems we have in Kenya are historical. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, historical injustices when it comes to land and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So you'll find that a lot of property, how the person who owns it arrived at the title may have been dubious, may have been irregular, may have been the proper procedure. So the good thing is, as you're doing the search, try and find out more information about what happened previously. Some of this can be found on the title. So, if you have a title that shows the history of transactions that happened on the title, that's a good way to look at it. Another way is also to ask the person who you bought it from to give you a copy of their transfer when they purchased the property. So that's what's called getting the last transfer of the property. With this kind of due diligence, doing that historical search, you're able now just to track what happened before 10 years ago. Maybe they bought the property 20 years ago. You can see what happened at that time and just verify that the transactions were carried out properly. It's good to see the last transfer because you can also see, did they pay stamp duty on the transfer? Was it exempted from stamp duty? Who signed it? Did the registrar endorse it? So those are things that when you're doing your property due diligence, it's important to actually be keen on such information.
Thanks, Fidel. Just to add on to what Fidel has said, some other things that may come up when you do your due diligence on the property, and specifically when you're looking at the search, there's what we call encumbrances. And essentially encumbrances are just interests that are noted on the property register. And once you apply for a search, then they come up, and they can take many forms. So an example would be like an existing charge that is registered to like a financial institution. This shows you that there's a third party that has a registered interest that in the event that they don't fulfill the obligations under that particular arrangement, that third party or that financial institution has a higher ranking interest on that particular development, a higher ranking interest than yours. Another thing that that might pop up is what we call cautions. There's cautions, there's restrictions, there's caveats, such things, and essentially these are like restrictions. They are entries that are made on the register, and what they look to do is they restrict the dealings that the vendor may have with that particular property. So you might find some that you're not allowed to maybe sell the property or deal with the property until this person has given their consent. Or some of them are essentially look to like caveats look to act like warnings. So they essentially warn the general public that you're not supposed to deal with this particular property. Should you do so, you'll essentially lose your money. So such things. The last one that Fidel had mentioned was the disputes, and essentially you might find when it comes to land matters, sometimes you might find that there's a case that's entered on the property register, and the court has given orders that no transactions or nobody might dispose with the interest in this land until this particular case is determined. In such an instance, you might find it's prudent that you actually go to court where that case is being heard and try and see if you can get details on that particular case, who are the parties to that case, and what the dispute is in respect to. Because you might find, should the court, determine that particular case, it can go either way. So they can give a determination that, says that, the person who holds the title doesn't have valid title. And essentially now that would put you in an awkward situation should you have bought that particular property. So it's always important to stay vigilant. Sometimes these cases are not entered on the property register, so you might need the developer or the vendor to disclose to you whether there are any pending cases on this particular property. Sometimes they are. Sometimes it requires a bit of prudence. So, you go and check up on Kenya law reports whether there are any reported cases in respect to that, particular property, or, there's a way lawyers can check on the judicial management system. So it just requires prudence and being vigilant when you're dealing in these particular dealings. Yeah.
Probably I'd just add, and Diana mentioned, with disputes, sometimes these are interests that you may not find on the title through a search. Other ones could even include like rights of way. Maybe people have, a right to pass along the land and they've been doing that for, 20 years. So those are rights that they acquire over time. Another one is, for example, somebody may be living on the property, they've been given a lease, but the lease has not been registered on the title. So that's also, it's called what are called unregistered rights. And also even for spouses, sometimes spouses have spousal interests in property, which are not registered on the title. So, when Dana was mentioning the issues about disclosures. So one of the things, say you find a title that has an individual's name on it, one of the disclosures you'll want to receive from them is, are you married? Do you have a spouse? Who is living on this property, who has rights to this property, or do you have any tenants on the property who, have unregistered leases? So those are kind of part of the due diligence is not just relying on the search itself, but also asking for those additional disclosures from the landowner.
Interesting. I think by the end of this webinar, I might end up joining your team because I'm learning a lot. So, and if you're learning, please make sure that you drop your questions if you have questions. And, if you're loving this, also please leave your comment in the comment section below. So, I think I have been in such. My family has been involved in such a case, especially when you are talking about, disputes, where now, and you find the same property, especially after people, for instance, a man dies and he leaves the property to the children, so everyone has interest in that property and they're planning to sell. And, you have like 10 buyers buying the same property. The title deed is there. They say this land, it is yet to be subdivided and such and such. I understand that part of doing your due diligence on the property is actually getting to understand the local area. You need to either go to site or really understand what is that area like. Because now you might end up buying. We have had cases of people actually buying property, a place where it floods. So during the dry season, it's dry and then it's a swamp for like 6 months. And, or that is where when it rains, when the water is running, that is exactly where it passes. So now in terms of conducting due diligence on property, what are some of the things you need to look into, especially when you're conducting the local area due diligence?
Thank you, Migwi. I think for this particular section, we can just narrow it to 4 things that we're going to look at. I think the key one is also understanding the zoning regulations, and you'll find each different counties may give different regulations in respect to construction within that particular area. So I might give an example like, let's say in Karen area, you might not be allowed to build beyond a certain level of, you might not be allowed to build beyond, a certain level. And still within the same area, you might not be allowed to, subdivide property to what would result into less than half an acre. So you'll find those things actually, should you find like somebody who's selling you property or wants to sell you an apartment off plan and they are promising to do these things and it's in breach of the regulations, it means that they might not be able to deliver, because at one point they might not be able to get the requisite approvals or, permits to actually build. So it's important to understand what are the, nitty-gritties when you move from different areas, and whether what the developer is doing is permitted within that particular area. So, some of the approvals that, the building approvals that the developer gets are some of the things you can use to confirm whether, the county has approved this particular, development. Yeah. So, yeah. I think the other one is looking at the developer's permits and approvals. And essentially this one is like, in terms of like getting the permits to develop that particular building. So they might have to go to a National Construction Authority. They might have to go to the county to get, a permit. They might have to undertake the change of use on those particular on that particular property. So those are some of the things that they need to do. Another thing that they may need to do is in respect to the architectural approvals. So they'd need to, those architectural approvals, as much as they've been drawn by the project architect, they need to be registered at the county, and they also need to be drawn by an architect who is licensed to practice. So some of those things are the things that you'd need to look at keenly when you're, when you're looking at, this particular segment. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can also touch on two other areas which I feel as investors they should be keen on. One is just having a look at the area around it. Diana mentioned the issue of zoning. Of course, once you know the zone, say the zone is been zoned as residential, so you're going to see a lot of residential developments there. But then you also have to be a bit more keen and not just accept the zoning regulation as it is. Go around and see what's actually happening on the ground. You could find the apartment that you're looking to buy. It's a very nice price, but right next to it is a huge garbage site, which is not being, it's something that you need to be keen on. Are you now willing to buy into that investment? And because you have to also think about the long-term value of the unit, and what kind of developments are coming up in that area. Are there other similar developments coming up in that area? And also, what will be the impact on the infrastructure surrounding it as well? So those are things that you need to consider. I think one of the things everyone is always concerned about is entertainment joints, how many there are in that area. Are there too many bars and clubs around there? So those are things that you as an investor, say you want to bring your family into that project. It's something also to consider. Another key aspect is the property land rates and land rent that are applicable for a specific property. So generally, like in Nairobi, every property is what's called rateable. So there are rates that are applicable for that property. So, property rates could be like from 20,000 per month or per year or whatever it is. And it's good to understand like what are the rates? Is the landowner paying the rates? Have they paid them for some time? Because what happens also with properties, you may find the landowner has not paid rates for 10 years. He's just not been bothered, or he doesn't have the money, or, it's a vacant land which is just left there to, accumulate in value, but he's never really paid off all the rates. So it's important. You can just go to county, get the title number, go to county and find out what the rate situation is at the property. And this can also inform you in terms of what your risk is. So for example, in Kenya right now, you can transfer property without the rates being paid. So basically you can be lumped with a whole bill for the last 10 years if you're not careful. Yeah. Of course, as lawyers, we are careful. We always try and make sure that the rates are paid. But I think if you're a buyer who is not well advised, or you're not keen on such things, you can find that you're suddenly put in a position where you are lumped with a huge bill from somebody else's mistake.
That's quite interesting. And every time you mention these things, they seem to be things that you need, that are supposed to be top of mind, but they're not. And I think it's a good thing that, thank God for lawyers. Yeah, because I know with the many people, I'm sure so many people could testify that these are not things that they think about on a day-to-day basis. And thank you so much for highlighting such things. And there's something you mentioned about visiting. You need to go and look at that area that the property is going to be developed, or rather, you need to look at what are the amenities that are within that area. Especially when you said about bars. I have lived somewhere. I didn't do my proper due diligence when I was going to live in a particular apartment. So during the day it's very quiet, and then now you can't sleep. You can't sleep anytime. So in terms of conducting due diligence on the property, part of it is doing a physical inspection. So what are some of the things that you might need to consider as you're taking that physical tour on that property?
Okay, I think I'll take the first two. We have 4 issues. One, survey reports. Another one is looking at utilities and infrastructure that are serving the property. Another one is obviously the plans that are drawn up, say it's a development. And the final one is post-completion, your actual physical inspection of your completed unit. So I'll take the first two. I think with surveys, I think from our experience, surveys are probably as much as, or if not more important than the title search, because a lot of problems that come up when you are purchasing property arise from what's happening on the ground. So you may find that you do a search and everything is, it's fine. The landowner issues is fine. There are no encumbrances, as Diana has mentioned. There are no restrictions, no cautions. But when you go on the ground, you find somebody is living there, yeah, or somebody is squatting there. And the recent cases in the press have been dealing with squatters, issues to do with squatters. So a survey is important because usually what happens, you engage a licensed surveyor who actually goes on the ground and does a report on what's actually on the ground. So you'll check the beacons, check the size of the property is the same as what's on the title, confirm that there are no squatters on the property, that there are no people who are claiming rights of way, as I mentioned earlier. There's nobody who has unregistered rights who is using the property. So it's important to have a survey done. Another good thing with surveys is that they identify whether there are any boundary disputes. So a surveyor usually will go onto the property and see, okay, so this boundary that is here on the property, is it encroaching on somebody else's land? Or is there a wall, say there a boundary wall encroaching on yours? And these are things that you can only find or identify through a ground survey. Another thing is to check things like, the impact that the property may have on the road reserve. So there's a road reserve on the main highway that is obviously left for government and public use. Is the property or the use of the property encroaching on it? That's another key consideration, because if it is, then of course that is a risk area for you as a buyer. Also, any land that is near a water body is concerning in terms of what can you do on that land next to the water body, because there's a certain area within the land that you cannot actually develop on. If it's called the riparian reserve, so you cannot actually develop on that part of the land. So again, those are things that the surveyor will actually inform you and give you feedback on. And also anything to do with environmental concerns. So if there's anything happening on the property that could have an impact on the environment as a whole, or if you are planning to do something on the property, like build something there that may have an impact on the environment, those are things that the surveyor can actually guide you on. So it's important to actually do a survey, because that survey is more additional information for you that can help you make an informed decision. I think allied to the survey, also any utilities or infrastructure that is serving the property. You may find there's no power line serving the property. So what's your risk area there? You just know that you're going to have to find a way to put a power connection onto the line. The access roads, in terms of the access to the property, where is the access? So those are things that, with proper due diligence, and you just going on the land and seeing, okay, so where will my car pass if I move into this property? Where will I walk in? How will I get out? Those kinds of things. How is my stay going to impact on the neighbor? Maybe we're sharing an exit. So do I need to talk to my neighbor and see how they can allow me to exit my property? So those are things that need to be considered. And also, just essential infrastructure surrounding, like a school or a hospital, what's nearby. Those are also considerations that I think you as an investor need to consider when purchasing and doing a physical inspection.
Maybe just to add to what Fidel has mentioned, I think the third thing that we would point to is the plans, and these are things that we've discussed over and over again, especially with off-plan developments. It's important that, number one, you get the architectural plans, that you understand the utilities that are going to be there, what's going to be in the common areas, how many apartments are going to be in the development, what amenities are going to be provided, and even as the developer constructs a development, you just keep track. See, are they developing in accordance with the approved plans? Sometimes you might find, architects and project managers have that leeway to, amend the plans slightly, but not in a way that would materially affect you as the investor. Mostly because you might find, they need to do something that, to be able to construct that particular development, maybe something they had not anticipated, and when they are constructing, that's when it's come up. So they might need to amend or review the plans. But it's also something that you need to be keen on from time to time. so that you don't get an apartment that was promised but it looks entirely different from what was advertised to you. So those are important things to look at, and you'll find like at Tsavo each week, the site updates are sent to you, so it even makes the monitoring much easier, because you're able to trace. Last week we were on 4th floor, this week on this particular floor, this is what's been done. If it's a matter of columns, excavation, that's what's happening, and you're able to trace that progress on a weekly basis, which is very commendable. And it speaks to like a lot of transparency that's there. So that's essentially what, when it comes to the plans, it's important that you just you monitor. And even after the development is complete, you also just come and inspect the apartment, just to make sure that it's an apartment in which a tenant, it's habitable. So a tenant can come in, they can live there. The finishings are as promised initially, and like I said, it's a place where you can have a resident living and they'll enjoy their time when they're in your apartment. So tied to that is, I think the last one that we'd mention when we're talking about physical inspection, and this is like the defects liability period. And this usually happens on completion of the development. And the architect has issued what we call a practical completion certificate. So usually you'll find after this particular certificate is issued, there's a 6 months window for investors to come inspect the apartment, just to make sure there are no material defects in respect to the apartment. And in the event that they find these defects, what they need to do is to notify the developer. And once they notify the developer will arrange to remedy those defects. So it's important that, even after the development is complete, that they take time to just visit the project, see how it's faring on, and just take time to look at their unit. I think this particular one, just speaks to the fact that when we were talking about due diligence in our first series, that due diligence is a continuous process up until you get your title. So you'll see like by the time you get into the defects liability period, there's a good chance 24 months have lapsed. So not 24, rather 48. 2 years have lapsed, and it requires you to be vigilant, or at least to keep track with your investment. Yeah, just to make sure that you don't lose your hard-earned money. Yeah.
Wow, I'm learning as much as we are all learning, and I think there's a lot to be talked about. And for those of you who have been wondering, you've been considering to invest with us, we have a perfect opportunity for you to do the physical inspection. That you come, everything that our very able lawyers here have talked about, especially concerning, come see where the property is being developed, come see the infrastructure, how is the property going to be accessed by the residents who are going to be living there. So this coming Saturday, we have a bus tour we have organized for those people who really want to conduct due diligence. And it will be in Roysambu. We'll be going to our projects in Roysambu and also here in Tindigwa, where we are at. So you'll have an opportunity to actually take a look at the ongoing projects, and you will also have an opportunity for you to look at the complete projects and ask the questions that you have. So the dates are 4th November from 8 a.m. So the pickup point is Kencom. Kencom is in Nairobi City. Center, CBD. So, and the buses will be leaving at 8. So in case you might want to join us, please make sure that you do. And part of what we'll be doing is when you come, we'll be giving you a free copy of the due diligence document. So today I have a physical copy. So we've been telling you that we promised you that we'll give you this copy. And for those who joined us at the Homes Expo, we were giving this copy for free. So when you come for the bus tour, be sure that you're going to get a free copy. It is a pocket size. It can fit anywhere. You know, I see people in weddings putting, putting it somewhere there. So this will actually enable you when you're conducting your due diligence on property and considering to invest. So the due diligence, the title is the ultimate real estate investment checklist on how you can perform your due diligence. And it highlights why you need to conduct due diligence and, highlighting some of the cases that we've had, especially in the country. And so the reason why you need to conduct due diligence, for instance, we have highlighted, you need to assess the risk that is involved in purchasing that property. There is, you need to make informed decisions even after, doing your due diligence. You need to negotiate even better with the property owner or the developer who is dealing with you. You need to know issues with compliance. Are these people compliant? So these are some of the benefits that you get. And there's legal protection and also transparency. These are some of the benefits. And we have highlighted some of the things, the basics of due diligence, which number one is taking your time. All this you find it in the due diligence document, which is available on download. We'll be sending a link, but more so you just need a physical copy, such a nice copy that you can carry around. So also part of what is in the due diligence document is a due diligence scorecard. Now, this tool provides a structured way to assess the viability of a real estate investment here in Kenya, especially for the off-plan scenarios. And it will allow you to make informed decisions based on the total score. So we have different sections on legal due diligence, some of which we have been covering. We have company due diligence, where now you're asking who are the developers, who are the directors, where is the physical location of their office? Because we've heard of many briefcase offices where you just come, you're told this is an office, and then when you come back next week, just to come back for that document, they told you come back after 2 weeks. You're told, hey, bana, how watu walihama kitambo? Ama who are you looking for? Yeah, so there's that. There's the financial due diligence, looking at the capability of the developer. Is the developer able to really construct this property and finish? There is now, when it comes to property management, what are some of the questions that you need to ask? So this document helps you with the right questions that you need to ask. Maybe if I can show you, and for each question there's a score. So for each question that you ask, you can give it a score based on the whether the answer given was satisfactory or not. So 1 being the lowest and the highest being definitely the highest. Yeah, so you can rate that, and then after you're done, you calculate the total score. So the total score which you get, we have a table of recommendations. So if after carrying out your due diligence, your total score is about 80 to 100, that's a strong investment opportunity and you can proceed with confidence. If your total score is 60 to 79, that's a moderate investment opportunity. You can consider proceeding with caution, and also you can address any lower scoring areas. If you get 40 to around 59, that is a high risk investment. You need to investigate further and possibly with professional guidance. And if now the score is 0 to 39, or if it is below 40, now that could be an extreme high risk investment, and now you need to exercise extreme caution or even reconsider the investment. So this document is available for you. So just make sure that you join in for the bus tour to get a physical copy. Nonetheless, we have a downloadable brochure which you can access. Now, before I see we're coming to a close, but before we come to a close, there are additional queries that you might need to ask, especially on a piece, on a property, especially with off-plan. So, and one of the questions that most people ask, or the frequently asked questions, is, are there any legal consequences of incomplete or insufficient due diligence?
I think I can answer that question. The risk you run by not doing your due diligence, or by not being keen, is you risk losing your investment, and sometimes even seeking legal recourse might be quite expensive for you. So by always not by just not being vigilant, or by choosing to ignore these particular aspects, then there's a risk where you might lose your money, and it might take longer for you to be able to recoup that particular amount, because it might involve you going to court to file a case against this particular individual, and sometimes you'll find that's money and time lost, and you don't even want to start talking about the emotional turmoil and the psychological anguish involved in pursuing such a claim. Yeah.
So I think also after conducting due diligence, you need to sit and analyze your findings. So what is it that I need to analyze? How do I proceed from now after getting my findings? How do I proceed from there?
I think just the way we've been discussing, from day one when we set the ground about due diligence, and then we came and talked about the parties to a transaction. Today we're talking about due diligence on the property. All these particular aspects are things that you need to look at very keenly. And I think it's brilliant that, Tsavo have actually gone the extra mile to give the investors a scorecard that they can use to, even rate and now indicate, the rankings, and at the end, the Italian, now they can now know where to place this particular investment. So I think it's now sitting down and understanding the implications of due diligence at each and every or at all levels, and what it means for that particular investment. And based on what you get, it's you now sitting and now assessing, is it risky? Is it an investment I can pursue comfortably? Has the developer taken the requisite steps? Is it safe? Are these people serious? Do they know what they are doing? So those are the kind of things you need to sit down and do. So essentially you're analyzing. If you're a very thorough person, you can even develop your own due diligence report. And you say, this is what I found on the vendor. This is what I found on the property. This is what I found in respect to the project approvals. And then at the end of the report, now you can come to your own conclusions and now analyze whether this is a worthwhile investment based off what you found. Yeah.
Interesting. And in case you missed the last few episodes on due diligence, we have a lot of very informative content there. Like you will need to go back and watch, because you don't want to make the mistake of being ignorant and not watching that video. So I think part of that is you'll find that there are red flags after analyzing your data. So how do I go about that?
Well, I think, and this is something we've seen with investors, some have a very high appetite for risk, others have a very low appetite for risk. So, and it's interesting, and I think the due diligence checklist, the red, amber, the green, yellow, each section just shows you, like, once you've done your due diligence, where you are in terms of, are you at the red section or are you at the green section? So I think the red flags, it's more of, maybe you've done due diligence on the property and you're happy, but then you do due diligence on the developer and there's something that is not adding up. That can be seen as a red flag. Or you do due diligence on your, you look around the local area, you're not happy about something, the infrastructure support for the property. So again, the red flags could be one or two issues, it could be a number of issues. But I think with red flags, the simple thing is, once you identify the red flags, highlight them to the person you're purchasing from. So if it's Tsavo, as an investor, call your fire partner and say, look, I've seen something on the infrastructure support for this project. I'm not happy. What's your recommendation? How are you going to address it? And that's really your role Yeah, once you've done your due diligence, don't just sit back and with that information. Take it forward and seek the clarification that you need, because otherwise you are, as Diana has put it, you're taking a risk that if you don't say anything, what happens next? If you lose your investment, you are then put in a pretty bad position. And I think that aspect of seeking clarification is critical, and we see a lot of investors do this quite well. So they will, send you an email and say, look, I'd like a clarification on, change of user that you're doing. How far along is it? What's the next step? Or you're moving to sectional title. So what do you need from me? How is the process going to work? That kind of thing. So those are the kind of due diligence, queries you should be seeking. Be active in terms of seeking these clarifications. So ultimately, that helps you make that decision that you want to make. You've got all the information, you've seen a red flag, but it's been answered satisfactorily. So now the decision is yours to make to invest in this project. And I think that makes it easy for you to then make an informed decision.
Yeah. And here at Tsavo, we are always available to answer all the questions and queries that you may be having as an investor, or even if you're looking forward to investing with us. And we have FIRE partners, and FIRE partners, they are the people who will take you through this journey. The questions that you need to ask, they'll help you structure the way you're going to plan. I think part of due diligence we talked about is estate planning, which is a topic we'll cover sometime in depth. And they help you just structure how you're going to make payments, and also help you even after doing your due diligence, how do I move forward from here? And there's a link that is going to be sent in case you're an investor. Please be in touch with your FIRE partner, ask them questions, and you'll be able to get clarifications. And I think we are coming to the end of this, and I know part of due diligence we talked about in the first webinar, in the second webinar, in parties to a transaction, is that the FIRE partner will introduce you to relevant parties to that transaction, including the developer and also other professionals. So FMC, we've been working for them for a long while, and they are our partners in terms of legal issues and legal matters that we are sorting. And you can always, in case you have questions or queries, I don't know, can you tell us where we can find you?
Thank you, Migwi. We are based in Westlands, Parklands area to be specific, in a building known as Carlson Towers on the second floor, left wing. Should you want to reach out to us via email, you can drop us an email via consult@fmcadvocates.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you.
All right, so I was trying to remember that name, legal counsel. It was mentioned a lot in our last webinar, so in case you missed out, you can check out that before you make decisions which you're not certain about, you can always seek legal counsel. And for us, if you're investing with Tsavo, they are always at your disposal. And just a quick reminder, also remember that we are giving you a free real estate investment checklist that will enable you, to ask the right questions before investing in any property. So please make sure a link is going to be sent in the description, so for you to download. Also, part of doing your due diligence is monitoring, like we mentioned today. You need to monitor and ensure that where you're putting your money, whatever they say they will do, these developers are doing. And here at Tsavo, every single Saturday, faithfully, for the last 8 years, we send site updates telling you this is what is happening on site, this is how we're spending your money, and you can actually see the progress of the project in which you have invested. So in case you haven't invested, or even part of you're just looking and seeing this Do these people do what they say they will do? So you need to subscribe to the site updates, that every Saturday morning you'll get the site updates and see the progress of these. And also watch out for a new project which is coming soon. And this soon that we've been mentioning is this Friday at 2 p.m. Please make sure that you tune in, because we'll be releasing a new project. And I know many investors are excited about this, because I know how it feels, the excitement when you hear a new project. So make sure that you stay tuned. We'll be talking about how you can get started on your investment journey. And if you've been planning to start your investment journey, then this is a must-attend webinar. Also, due diligence in tsavo now, it begins with the vital step which we talked about. You need to go to site. Physical inspection. You need to come to site and see what these people, whatever they are saying, it is true. And you need to conduct now due diligence where it matters, kwa ground. You've heard this popular saying that kwa ground vitu ni tofauti. So before you say that about tsavo, please make sure that you sign up for the bus tour, which is this Saturday from 9 a.m. So we'll be gathering at Kencom. Kencom, kwa watu ambao hawajui, ulizia archives iko wapi? Opposite on the right, that is where. And yeah, so the charges are 500 bob. In case you would like to, a link is also going to be sent. And if you are an investor, reach out, or even you have been in contact with a fair partner, reach out to them and find out how you can join us on that particular day. So we'll be visiting Roysambu, and then we'll be coming to Dindigwa. You'll have an opportunity to see the complete project and the ongoing project. So also, just a quick reminder, you will be picked at Kencom and you will also be dropped there. So don't worry, that will come to Dindigwa, to Kwache Ivo. And also, for those people who really, wanaulizanga, are there snacks? Yes, we'll be having snacks. And lastly, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us across all our social media platforms, because we are all about financial independence, and financial independence is about having sufficient assets that generate you enough passive rental income that enables you to meet your needs, your wants, and your desires. And also on top of that, getting to financial independence will enable you pursue purpose. So for much more content that we give, you don't want to miss out on that. And also, please engage with us and let us know what kind of content do you look forward to in this webinar, so that we are able to give you much more beneficial information. Now, today, I'll leave you with this quote by Ali ibn Abi Talib. I even had to clear my throat to say that name. So this quote by Ali ibn Abi Talib says that knowledge is the only treasure that increases when it is shared. And this is for those people who have been wondering, why are these people giving us all this information? It is because knowledge is the only treasure that increases when it is shared. So have a blessed night, and God bless you. See you in the next webinar, where we'll be talking about the transactions, what happens in the transactions, and what you need to look out for. Good night.